Hey everybody, Derek Judd here, Cowboy Criminologist with Cowboy Criminology. Imagine how scary it would be to wake up and find somebody in your home, a complete stranger. Now, we all understand that because of the society we live in, that has the potential to happen to each and every one of us. But we always imagine that this individual is the absolute worst that society has to offer. But I want to share a story with you about what happens when that individual ends up being what's supposed to be America's best. So watch this with me.
All right, before I have Mr. Zambon speak, I want to talk to you a little bit too about this. There's a separate charge from the same day at a different location. June 15th, which would have been Friday, the same day. Oh, that's Saturday. June 15th, Saturday, at an address on Oak Street in Rockford. They're charging you with illegal entry without owner's permission, where they said you entered with or without breaking a certain building or structure, a house, that's right at 192 Oak Street in Rockford, whether it was occupied or unoccupied, without first obtaining permission to enter from the owner or occupant, agent, or person having immediate control thereof. It's a misdemeanor. They call it illegal entry or entry without owner's permission. The possible penalty is 90 days in jail, up to $500 fine. You'd have the right, Mr. Castillo, to plead guilty or not guilty, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to have an attorney. This is a misdemeanor case, and the least of all your worries about everything you're charged with right now. That misdemeanor allows you the right to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, allows you to have an attorney represent you, and if you could not afford to hire an attorney, the court could appoint an attorney to represent you. Then you pay the expense of a court-appointed attorney. I'd anticipate when you get your attorney on the big felony cases, you'll also talk to that attorney about this misdemeanor, which, as I've said, is the least serious and least worrisome of the cases that you have, because you have a life felony, a 20-year felony, a 10-year felony, and a 5-year felony. The case I just read to you is a 90-day misdemeanor, 90-day misdemeanor. We still say not guilty on that case, Mr. Castillo, as we say not guilty on all charges. Now, Mr. Zambon, did you have a chance to talk to Mr. Castillo briefly ahead of time?
Yes, Your Honor, I did. He was very cooperative with me. He gave me all of the information that he provided to court services, much of which we have gleaned from directing questions to Mr. Castillo. I would also point out that the court services pretrial release report indicates that Ricardo has absolutely no criminal record whatsoever, and that he's been in the same area here as a recruiter for the last 9 months. I would ask the court to take all of that into consideration along with his service to the country as a Marine recruiter and set a reasonable bond. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Castillo, while I gave you the dates of when you have to be back in our court, June 26, Wednesday at 8:30, July 3, Wednesday at 9:30. You will have an attorney that you get to talk to prior to both of those. Well, honestly speaking, that first appointment, you might meet the attorney that day, but I definitely will give you time to talk to the attorney. But it's very possible you'll meet him before the 26th of June. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right, this is what I'm going to tell you. This is as big as it gets. This case, it's as scary as it gets. It's as horrific as it gets. And it puts all of us in a fear zone like no other. I don't understand any of what the allegations are other than what I've read to you. And you're going to have to talk with your attorney step by step because these are big cases. One, no matter what, I don't want you to have any contact, directly or indirectly, with the people that live in that house on Ella Terrace by the name of Timmer. I don't want you to have any contact with the person that I identified as the initials AT or any of her family, whether you know them or they're total strangers to you. We enter a plea of not guilty on all charges, 4 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. Not guilty is the plea that's entered currently. You are to report to court services. You're not allowed to be in possession of any weapons, regardless of what kind of weapon. No weapons, no ammunition. Report to court services. I'm saying you live alone. No contact with any children. That's anybody 17 years in age or under. You cannot have any contact with any children. You have to have a GPS tether if you're released from the jail. And the bond currently for the 4 felony cases is $2 million in cash. $2 million in cash only. That is how serious this court takes all of these charges, and we want to make sure you're monitored. If there's any chance you're released from jail, 24/7. Now, on the misdemeanor case for the illegal entry, I make it a $5,000 10% bond. $5,000 10% bond. That's $500. And we still say not guilty on that charge. You're going to want to talk with your attorney, whoever you get, for all of these charges. Now, Mr. Castillo, do you have any questions for me? Could you repeat that?
Just have one last question, ma'am. When would I, as I'm an attorney, when can I talk to him or her?
That's a good question, and I would say within the next 5 to 10 days, you're going to be talking with your attorney. The first appointment you have with us is June 26th. Today is the 17th, so it's going to be within the next few days when an attorney gets assigned to you. They'll make an effort to try to contact you. Sometimes they've met their client before the first appointment. Sometimes they have not. I will make sure, since I'm your judge, that I have time for you to talk to that attorney if you have not met them before you come to my court June 26th. Do you get that?
Yes, I do.
Any other questions?
That would be it, ma'am.
Did you get fingerprinted when you were arrested? Okay. We'll see you on Wednesday, June 26th. Follow the rules, exam.
Okay, so first off, I love this judge. This is the kind of judge that we need in America right now. When you screw up this bad, regardless of your service to your country, regardless of your lack of criminal history, this is a judge who gets how dangerous this guy is. When I first saw this story, most of y'all who follow my channel pretty regularly know that I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, the same branch that this guy's from. And I could make a lot of jokes right now about the difference between Parris Island and Hollywood Marines and stuff like that, but the point is this. When a service member of any branch steps this far outside of the law, it makes all of us look bad. whether we're veterans, whether we're still in uniform, and this type of behavior should never be tolerated. All right. So you might be trying to piece together what this guy did that's so bad that a judge in Michigan gave him a $2 million cash bond. Now, most of the time, you heard what she said, 10%, $5,000 bond on the misdemeanor, meaning he could bond out if he could raise $500 in cash. Most people can. It's really not that difficult, and most bond companies will float the 500 with acceptable collateral. The $2 million cash bond, that means if you raise $199,999,999.99, you're staying in jail until you can find that extra penny somewhere. And she put a lot of restrictions. I was so glad to hear that. So first off, getting the $2 million together, I don't think there's a GoFundMe account just racking up money to pay his legal expenses right now. Second, he has to wear an electronic monitor. He has to surrender all of his weapons. He cannot be around any children under the age of 17, which, being a Marine Corps recruiter, is a problem considering a lot of the individuals that he's talking to are 16, 17, 18 years old. And, you know, this guy's pretty young. I don't know how long he's been in the Marine Corps, but to be a corporal and be on recruiting duty, that shows me that the Marine Corps put a lot of faith in him. And so I want to share the news story that brought all this to my attention, and I want you to know what he did. Now, while you're doing that, I want you to remember the video I did a couple weeks back, once again in Michigan, where an attorney attempted to gain access into a home. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share this video with you.
Tonight, we are learning new details about an attack authorities say happened inside a Kent County home. Early Saturday morning, emergency crews were called to a neighborhood near Rockford where an 11-year-old girl had been stabbed. The homeowner held the suspect at gunpoint until deputies could arrive. As 13 on Your Side's Josh Albertus learned in court today, the man who is now charged says he planned to kill the entire family. And we do want to warn you, some of what you're about to hear is disturbing.
These are big cases.
A suspect charged and in custody after police responded to a neighborhood south of 10 Mile in the Rockford area Saturday morning on the call of a man in the home. An 11-year-old girl, police say, was stabbed by an intruder who entered the home around 3 a.m.
Are you Ricardo Perez Castillo?
Yes, I am.
Ricardo Castillo, who told the judge he was a Marine Corps recruiter, made his first appearance in court on Monday after the county prosecutor charged him with 4 felony counts in connection to the incident. According to court documents, Castillo went into the home and took off everything but his underwear and shirt. Documents say he grabbed a knife from the kitchen, later telling detectives he planned to kill everyone inside. Castillo, the documents say, was naked as he allegedly stabbed the girl and told detectives he planned to kill the girl and have sex with her dead body. While the judge said she was not familiar with the allegations beyond the charges she read, those alone brought a firm response.
This case, it's as scary as it gets. It's as horrific as it gets. And it puts all of us in a fear zone like no other.
The girl who the caller said had been cut, documents say, was a friend of a girl who lives in the home. Castillo, the documents say, said he stopped stabbing as the girls began to scream. The caller that morning said the male they found in the bedroom had been held at gunpoint until police arrived.
We have to look at what exactly happened in this case, and based on the evidence we had, we thought there was enough to show an intent to kill, and that's why we filed the charge that we did.
As of Saturday, the Kent County Sheriff's Office believed it to be a random attack.
At this point, it appears to be initially random. And again, that lengthy part of the investigation will go back more into the details behind how this happened and why it happened at this residence. But at this point, we don't have any connection to lead the subject that was responsible for the assault to this residence.
And given this, the undersheriff urged people to do all they can to keep themselves safe, no matter the position or state of their home.
Even though you live in a safe community here in West Michigan, get to a nightly routine. Lock your doors, lock your cars, just double check windows, make sure that your home is as safe as possible. This was a completely random act from what we believe right now, and these things don't happen very often, but they can, so we just ask for you to do everything you can on your part to keep yourself safe.
And Josh, have we heard from the Marine Corps about this at all?
We have, Juliet. They identify Castillo as a corporal who has served as an infantryman and a canvassing recruiter. They also had this to say in their statement, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic incident that occurred. The Marine Corps is fully cooperating with the Kent County Sheriff's Office in this matter. The incident is currently under investigation by authorities, and it would be premature to speculate on the details of the investigation at this time. Our hearts go out to the victim's family and loved ones during this incredibly moment."
So not only my branch, but my same MOS, I was an infantry rifleman. Normally, you don't see a lot of this type of violence in service members who serve in the ground forces, infantry, in whether the Army or the Marine Corps. So the fact that this individual served in that capacity, had that level of training, and broke into not one but two homes on the same night where he attempted to, by his own admission, attempted to kill and have sex with his victim. That is frightening stuff. And when you think about the level of training that he would have in order to use a knife, to use any weapon, I did read that the first house he broke into, he just walked in the front door, and the homeowner challenged him, "What are you doing here?" And apparently he was confused. Like his exact quote was, "I don't even expletive know. I don't even expletive know what's going on." The homeowner told him he had to leave, and he left without incident. And then he ends up down the block where he attacks this poor 11-year-old girl. I mean, just the level of fear for both of those families, the family of the victim, her friend's family, everybody involved in that. Just what a horrifying thing. Now, the homeowner seemed to have showed a tremendous amount of restraint by simply not shooting this half-naked, full-grown man in his daughter's room. Different parts of the country would tend to handle that a little bit different. It's easy to sit there and say, "Well, I would have done this, I would have done that." Until you're in that situation, it's hard to say. I think the fact that there is no mistake about where he was located, what his state address was, the weapon was found in close proximity. So all of this stuff right here it's very difficult to listen to. As a veteran, as a Marine, as an infantryman, hearing this stuff, it makes my blood boil. But let me tell you the scary thing about this, as if this couldn't get any worse. The scary part about this is, what if this was a completely random act where he was seeking out a victim that he would have been able to control? Now, the fact that in the first residence he was surprised probably made him think, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need to have a weapon. So he started to learn really quick what he wanted to do. But he spent time in the second home. He went to the master bedroom, opened the door, figured, you know what, I probably have the upper hand, but I'm not comfortable enough taking on two people. So he looked for an easier target. Some of the doors in the house had been interior bedroom doors had been locked. He wasn't able to get access. And then he found these two 11-year-old girls having what many children in America do during the summers. It's summertime. Have a sleepover. It's all fun and games, And this is horrific. But my mind goes to another place. What if the victim wasn't random? And in order to really digest this, you're going to need to serve electronic search warrants on his phone, his computer, any computer he had access to, any electronic device capable of surfing the internet, because I want to know specifically what websites he's visiting, what social media sites he's visiting. I think it's very coincidental that he just happened to enter a home where these two 11-year-old girls were sleeping. That seems to be either just a profound amount of luck for somebody with no criminal history who just woke up one morning and after downing a little liquid courage, gave a big stretch and said, hey, you know what I think I'm going to do to cap off the night? Something tells me that when the smoke clears on this whole thing, there's going to be some type of connection. What that connection is, it's anybody's guess at this point. But this type of behavior, it's too sophisticated a thought process to leave that to chance. And to break into the home, get a knife. Of course, we've talked about what type of offender does that. It's a disorganized offender. All right, not a whole lot of thought given to the whole thing. But he did strip off his clothes. Now, does that make him organized because he didn't want he didn't want blood or DNA on his clothes, anything that could be traced to him? So he's actually leaning towards a mixed type profile. And we've talked about this. If you see a mixed typology in a case, it could be because of the individual's current state of mental health or presence of alcohol or drugs, which I believe the story I read said that he had been drinking. His level of intoxication, I don't think we really know. But so mental health, drug or alcohol toxicity can play a part in presenting a mixed typology. Also, grabbing a weapon from inside the house where he entered, that's another disorganized trait. So this wasn't thought out, but it also is indicative or demonstrative of somebody with a lack of criminal sophistication, a lack of criminal history. All right. But if this is truly this individual's first time committing a crime like this, and I would imagine that there would probably be, as the investigation unfolds, I'd expect to hear about fetish burglaries, breaking into residences, or merely just trying doors or windows to see if he could gain entry. I would also expect to see a certain amount of violent pornography, violent movies, home invasion style movies, things like that, to kind of show he had the fantasy, but he was trying to figure out how he was going to work that out. And I don't think he ever really developed the criminal sophistication to pull it off. Obviously, he's in jail on $2 million bond, and I think that's an excellent place for him. I could think of a more appropriate place for him, but I'll keep that comment to myself for the time being. Something tells me that there are behaviors in this guy's past that are going to come into sharp relief, and they're going to paint this very squared away United States Marine as anything but. I think that as things go on, people are going to notice behaviors about him, maybe jokes that he made in the past. Certain things are going to come back. But as far as this being a random crime, I have a hard time. I have a hard time buying into that. And it could just have been that as he was wandering through the house, he made up his mind in an instant. This would also be characteristic of a mixed typology offender to find a victim and then decide on committing the crime. Basically, he found as little resistance as he was going to encounter, and a sleeping 11-year-old girl. That's pretty low hanging fruit. So, y'all, like the undersheriff said, you can live in the safest neighborhood, the safest block, in the safest city in America, and you still need to take basic precautions. Now, fortunately, the girls survived. Both the girls survived. Nobody was killed. Um, and regardless of what you think about firearms in a home, about them being dangerous, about them being a liability, what have you, responsible gun ownership, as demonstrated by the homeowner of this girl's father, shows you just exactly what an effective tool that can be in the case that something like this happens. So, y'all, I'm Derek Judd for Cowboy Criminology. I hope this video is kind of giving you some stuff to think about. Y'all take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time.